You're listening to The Dating Den with dating and relationship badass and best-selling author Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important dating, sex, and relationship issues you want to know about. So if you're ready for true talk that's authentic and unfiltered, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
The Dating Den, episode 91 with Tripp Lanier. 45-year-old boys, why some men can't grow up. Lovely ladies, welcome to the Dating Den today. I brought you a man. That's how I do it. The Dating Den used to be on YouTube, and occasionally I'd bring in these like hunky men to help women understand men. And so there is no visual, but you will love Tripp Lanier and his sultry voice and his massive ability to communicate and understand men. So ladies, buckle in. We're going to finally learn how to understand men. Let me tell you about Tripp Lanier. This is it. Honestly,
no more.
It is. You don't have to ever read another freaking article on BuzzFeed again. This is it. Okay. So let me tell you about Tripp Lanier. He is the host of the New Man podcast, which, by the way, of course, forward to my husband. I'm like, you need to listen to Tripp. Beyond the Macho Jerk and the New Age Wimp, which for over a decade has been downloaded millions of times. You want to check that out. And he's been doing this a long ass time. So since 2005, Tripp has spent thousands of hours coaching people from all over the world to get out of the rat race, become an authority in their field, and make a great living doing the work that they were put on this earth to do, which means he's an angel. And over the years, he's designed a lot of businesses to support a simple lifestyle focused on freedom, ease, meaning, and fun. And he is in connection with really important people because as the host of his podcast, he's interviewed lots of experts and authors from all walks of life, including Tim Ferriss, you know him, the 4-Hour Workweek guy, the 4-Hour Body, the 4-Hour Chef, Ryan Holiday, Dan Millman, gotta read Way of the Peaceful Warrior. That's epic. And Neil Strauss. Yeah, he's interviewed him. He is a self-proclaimed personal development jackass. And he has done everything from 10-day silent meditation retreats to plant medicine journeys to men's group in Costa Rica jungle, somatic sex intensives in his bedroom to drinks with the Zen masters. And he's even learned some life lessons by spending an evening in a strip club with none other than David Lee Roth, who I think was probably my first crush in like 7th grade. It was just the hair. So Tripp, welcome.
Thank you, Marni. Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. I guess that's my podcast ritual. I gotta learn that I'm in the hot seat.
You're in the seat, but thank you for thanking me for being with you, because I'll still take it because I'm super feminine, so I receive it all. Yeah. So I know you did this whole thing on your site. I saw the title, 45-year-old boys, why some men can't grow up. And I was like, please do tell. So I thought we would just start with that. Like, where did that even come from? What was going on that you decided to create around this topic?
It's a mentality. It really is nothing that is specific to men. It's just a mentality. The spirit of the article is that we come into this world completely helpless, and we learn that from an early age, from the first moments. We bitch, we moan, we cry. Somebody else figures out what we want, and then they deliver it to us. And unfortunately, a lot of us never get beyond that. We just go through life bitching and moaning and complaining, and hope that somebody else figures out A, what we want, and then B, brings it to us, instead of being the person that says, you know what, if I'm not happy here, what do I want? And number two, what do I need to do to go make that happen? And so I say that that's the thing that sets up, the situation where we've got 45-year-old boys.
Damn. And so, like, do you know any? Like, are these like in your hanging out with men? Like, do you feel like, because my ladies would say they're everywhere. It's an epidemic. Is it, or is it just a generalization for a few, but they make a big impact, so it feels like it's all of them? I mean, what's the deal?
No, I think there's a lot of 45-year-old princesses out there too. It's still happening, and I don't want to like just pile on here. I just want to help us see like, oh, this is what we do. So even in my own home, I can pull this shit, right? Like I can show up in this way and then I get a look from my wife. I'm like, oh man, I'm doing that thing again where I'm wanting her to take care of me. I'm wanting her to figure out what I want for myself. I'm wanting her to essentially take care of me and be the mommy kind of thing, which is it's going to kill your sex life. It's going to kill any kind of attraction. So I don't think that it's whether or not we are this, right? It's in us. It's who we started out as. And it's just a matter of how unconscious are we to this pattern. And I think that ultimately we can get to places where we just want to get where somebody else can take care of us, do that stuff for us. And it's one thing to gift that to somebody, right?
Right.
I love to gift care to my wife, but I don't want to be expected that I am her father, right? That's going to kill our dynamic. And that's why I didn't enjoy dating princesses for too long, right? It's this like, but it's something that I'd love to be able to gift her and to care for her in that way. But I love knowing that she can take care of herself if she needs to, and she's a big girl. And then it feels like a wonderful thing to be able to say, hey, you know what? I got this.
This is so profound because there's one whole set of ladies who are listening to this show who attract men like that, right? Because they fall into and hide out in being that caretaker role. Like the way that
it's also a control. It's also a controlling place.
Okay, so talk about that. So because then it leads to resentment, right? Like I do everything and he never. It's the always never thing. So
meh.
Yeah, man. So if somebody notices that that's their pattern and they're dating someone now and they don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, what do you do if you find that this is your situation? So what does your wife do what do you do when you realize that you're in that pattern?
Well, I just wake up to it. Usually I get something thrown at me or, splashed. But in reality, it's just, I get to say, you know, what's the relationship I really want here? Do I want to be a little boy in this situation? Is this how? No, I don't want to create my relationship from that place. I don't want to be a parent from that place. I certainly don't want to run my business from that place. So there are times where it feels good to go out and dick around and have that. Like my wife completely supports that. She gifted me for my birthday 3 days of rally driving school, right? That's all about the little boy. Go have fun, have a great time. That's something I wouldn't have done for myself. It wasn't even on my radar. So that's what I mean is we gift each other that. We love that child within each other. And then we also say, hey, you know, that's not the person we're going to co-create a marriage with, or that's not the person I'm going to have sex with, essentially. So I think it's just about coming back to saying, hey, what relationship do I want? I take full responsibility here. So if somebody's not happy in their relationship and all they're doing is pointing the finger at the other person, you got to say, what the hell are you doing with this person? It takes two. Why are you choosing this person? Why are you choosing that dynamic? And for me, in my past, when I would choose people that, when I would choose a princess, so to speak, somebody that wanted me to take care of them, it was because I wanted to be in control. I could keep that person at a certain distance. I wasn't going to be vulnerable. And what I realized is that if I was going to have somebody who was actually my peer, somebody who stood shoulder to shoulder with me, I would have to open my heart. I'd have to really let that person in. I'd have to be able to depend on that person when there were times when that was a part of our relationship. And so I think that's the hard part is like, I want to stay safe, and I can stay safe if I got somebody I can kind of, you know, take to the playground and treat him like a little boy.
Okay. Honestly, that's like a mic drop moment because I'm saying this to ladies all the time. Like there's a reason why you're attracting a certain kind of person in your life. And yes, if you are attracting this guy who needs care, and I'm using like care as in, you know, that fixing sort of energy, then it does allow you to be in control. And guess what? You don't have to really open up and be vulnerable. So the bottom line is if you want to attract a more conscious man or a more awake man who can be self-aware and say, I'm the guy who doesn't want to be the kid today, then you have to step up and say, am I willing to allow someone like that into my life?
Right. And I've been around amazing women that have it all together, are doing a wonderful things in the world, that are complaining about the types of men. And number one, I'm like, why is this guy allowed within 100 yards of you? He shouldn't even be allowed, much less to be in your bedroom, much less to be in your vagina. So why is this person even allowed within 100 yards of you if he's going to zap your energy in this way? And number two, as a quality man, I want to penetrate this woman, meaning it's not just in a sexual way. I want to have an impact. And if you are walled off, if I'm unable to gift you, if I'm unable to have any kind of impact in your life, I'm bored. I'm moving on. There are other women that will allow me to impact them, and we can have that back and forth and that kind of play. I'm going to seek that. But for a woman that doesn't allow any of that back and forth and that play. Watch dogs play, right? One guy will be the dominant one and they fuck around on the wild, and then the other guy rolls on his back, and then they go back and forth. They'll play that back and forth.
Yeah.
Well, if one guy's always the dominant one, that game doesn't last very long. It gets boring.
Totally.
So I don't think that dominance and submission has anything to do with gender here. It's just like, can we impact one another? Can we be accessible to one another? And I just want to, like, for that woman that thinks she's got to maintain what strength is. Well, strength is really that ability to also roll over and be like, yeah, come play with me. Come play with me here. I can be here as well. And that's really vulnerable. It's especially vulnerable for women, but it's the thing that will either repel or attract the quality man, as he wants to be able to have that kind of play.
I love this. Okay, first of all, I'm in love with you. You're amazing. But secondly, so here's the thing. Women go out on dates, I believe, with metaphorical and emotional arms crossed, going, prove to me you're not a jerk like the rest of them. And I maintain that a quality guy will not, if the wall is too thick, so to speak, he's not going to like work really hard, to like get you to open up or get you to trust. Is that true, do you think? I mean, like, a quality guy notices someone's got their wall up. What's the dating process in his mind? What's that look like? Well,
first off, it's just painful. It's painful to be with somebody who's walled off. It doesn't feel good. So I just that's the experience. We can be sitting here, we can be sitting, watching the sun go down, having a drink. And if the arms are closed, the heart's closed, and there's just no fun, or there's no sense going back and forth, there's just like oh man, it's sad. You're not here. You're not available. You're not a part of this. Meanwhile, the waitress could be coming up and giggling and flirting and have a great, it's like, I'm going home with you. Right? Like, because we can play, we can have this back and forth. There's the fun, there's the zest. So I think if there's a guy that wants a project and he likes, like, oh, I like to try and open up the girl. Like, I've been that guy. So maybe it works. And then you become a project. You're a fixer-upper. I don't particularly want to buy a house that's a fixer-upper. I want to move in. Like, let's go. Let's enjoy this. Let's enjoy this house. I don't want a project.
I want turnkey, please.
Yeah, I want turnkey, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be maintenance.
No.
But I think some people want to. There are those people that just like, yeah, let's just start with broken.
Well, yeah, no, totally. But I believe, and I feel like you're with me. Like, a quality guy is really savvy, and I think what you said is so important. I want to underline it. A lot of you ladies go in the date, and the reason why your arms are crossed is because you are like in interview mode, and your energy is like, is this a waste of my time? Does he like meet my list? And that is the opposite of playful and fun. And so, like, what's the energy a lady wants to bring on a date that is, powerful because she knows what she wants, right? And she has value in herself. And also she's open and playful. What does that date feel and look like to her? I'll tell you
about my wife. So we were introduced via email. She lived across the country. I was living in Florida. She lived in Colorado. We were introduced. She wouldn't give out her phone number. She would only give her email. So over a couple of months, we had a couple of email exchanges. And I was like, there's these things called phones. We can have a conversation. She's like, no. So one day she does call me after a month and a half of us going back on email. And we talk for 2.5 hours. And she does the list. Like, it's an interrogation. It's a grilling. She's not going to fuck around. She doesn't want to waste any time doing this thing. And she's heard a lot. There's a lot of energy built up around both of us and what's possible here. I get off the phone with her. I'm like, man, I like how together she is. Like, I'm interested. And we were having fun, right? We could poke around. There was that, the dogs playing, right? There was that happening. But she was also just really clear. I'm not here to fuck around. And I was like, that was refreshing. That's where I was too. So I called her back and I said, I'm getting on a plane next Thursday. I'm taking you to dinner. Boom. We go to dinner the next week and we're happening. But guess what? That next day we go on a day date and I'm pulling so where'd you grow up? And how did that, what's that? I start playing small. I'm trying not to screw it up. I'm doing the thing where I don't want to mess it up and I don't want to color outside the lines. We go into a Starbucks. She orders some foamy thing. Starbucks is packed. She turns around and immediately pops the bottom up and intentionally throws this foam all over me. We get into a food fight in the middle of Starbucks, and now we're back to the dogs playing again. Okay. So I'm really thankful for her because she had an eye on that energy. And I'm, that morning as we're just hanging out, I'm like, I don't know if I want to have sex with this girl anymore. Like, there was some energy before, but now we're just friends and blah, blah, blah. So I want to just see how that energy can shape how we see the opportunity in front of us. Are we being playful? Are we being accessible? Are we taking risks? or are we trying to get it right and trying to control and be safe? And I think as long as we're in that safe, controlling arena, then it's always going to kind of feel flat and you're going to be like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling it. But if we're willing to step outside of there and be playful and take some risks, then you might start to see who we really are and you can find that real attraction there. So I don't know if that answers your question.
That totally answers my question. And here's also, which is so cool what you were saying, because I always tell my clients, I'm like, so you got to remember, men are actually humans. Right. So like there you are, you had this date and now you're in your head because you're like, I really like this woman. Like she's really cool. And so you had your own moments. And what I love is that your wife was like, wanted to make you feel comfortable and remind you, right? Like, this is fun. I like hanging out with you. And that she helped to create and bring back that playfulness. And that is that give and take, right?
Well, she came from a place of frustration, right? So you asked, what's it like to be with a woman in that place? It was the same for her. There's nothing in here that's just for women and just for men, right? It was just, it was her experience was that it was like, oh my God, please, what are we doing here, right? So she was present enough to her own experience to be like, this is frustrating. And then she had enough integrity, enough boldness, enough confidence to say, I want to throw an entire chai on this guy. And then I could meet her there. I didn't get all butthurt about it. It was like, oh, game on. Now we go. I know how to do this. I know how to play, but trying to get it right, trying to color inside the lines was what was ruining the dynamic. And so I think for both of us, that's where we can take responsibility, is to say, what is my experience here? Is this fun? Is this not? Okay, what am I doing? How am I contributing to that? I'm trying to get it right. I'm trying to get him to pursue me, or I'm trying to get her to do this thing. It's just like, oh, come on. You're just playing it safe. So what does it look like if you're not trying to play it safe, you're not trying to get it right anymore? I think we may find that we can accelerate the process of getting to know one another and having a real connection if we're willing to get outside of that part there. And I'm not talking about getting naked or anything like that, but just to quit trying to say the right thing or appear the right way and just let it hang out. And you know what? You're going to repel that. That's where things are going to polarize, right? Because in that moment, I could have been the guy that was like, I'm out of here. That's not cool. I'm gentle snowflake and I don't like that kind of stuff. Or what happened was like, oh, you're mine now. I'm going to take you in the fucking bathroom and you're mine. Like it lit that up. And so that's what most of us aren't willing to polarize. We just want to keep everything right in the lane.
Oh my God, I love this. Okay, let me ask you this. So you said when you were talking about your wife, like you were in this place where you were ready. So what does a man need to feel to really be or have to be relationship ready? Because I think that a lot of the listeners have these rules like, well, he's only been out of divorce for 6 months, so he couldn't be ready. Or he, is really focused on this, so he's not ready. But what does that really look like? What's that evolution? I call it manvolution, for a guy to really be ready to have a committed, honest, open, intimate relationship?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, because I think when you get into the right situation, you're like, oh, now I want this. It's not, if we're not ready, then we're just not a yes.
Wait, that's deep. So what makes it a yes?
I think that dynamic, as a man, I want to know I'm free to be who I am in the relationship. I don't want to feel trapped. I don't want to be like, oh, well, I can only be loved if I show up a certain way. Okay. I want to know that my partner really has my back and loves me for all of who I am, even if some of that might make her uncomfortable at times. So one of the things that had me be a real yes to Allison was that I felt really appreciated and loved for all of who I am. And I didn't feel from her that I needed to be somebody else. It wasn't like, oh, I love you the way you are. Now let's just do a makeover, right? Like, how many relationships are like that? It's like, oh, you'd be great once you don't have these friends and once you get a different job and you're making more money and we cut that hair and we get rid of those pants. It's just like, oh, they want to do this makeover thing. And that's not a yes for me. So the other part is I want to feel alive. I want to know that there's going to be novelty and variety, and that there's a shared appreciation for wanting to be alive in this relationship, and not like, great, now that we're together, let's lock everything down and just be done. I don't want to feel that way. That doesn't feel exciting to me. So a guy that senses a scenario where his aliveness is now, he has to give up freedom and he has to give up aliveness, he's not stepping into that.
Totally. In fact, yeah. I was just going to say, when I was dating my husband for like 4 or 5 years, he's like super adventurous. And he went into this whole story that if we got married, then he wouldn't be able to travel and go on surf trips and live in his car in Costa Rica for a few days. Because that just, like you said, like that driving around a racetrack, right? And it wasn't until it was like, no, wait, we get to be alive and in this collaboration of what relationship looks like together. That once that sense of freedom isn't like threatened, it was like a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, you're on my team. You actually love me, right? I've got my friends who want that for me. And then we've got our partners that are like, oh, no, they don't want that for me. They want me to go stay in this corner and be a good boy. So I think that this is where we have to look at our relationships from a certain perspective, which is, do I just want this person around to make me feel safe and to make me feel loved and validated? And then I want to lock them down and basically have control over them, what they think and what they feel and what they want? Or do I want a partner that sees the best in me? I see the best in them, and then we are allies in providing that or supporting that. They're not responsible for that in each other, but we're there to support that. Hey, you want to feel more alive? Great. What are you going to do? What's going to have you feel more alive? And what happens is when, at least for me, when I feel like somebody's really an ally for me, you've got my loyalty. You've got my devotion. But if I feel like you only love me as long as I have you feel validated and safe and comfortable or whatever that might be, then I just start to realize, oh, this is really just about you. Right. And how many relationships are like that, right? Like it's just completely that you need to do this for me and I'll do this for you. And it's that kind of dependency kind of thing. So I think it's a shift in that and seeing like, hey, you know what? I'm here to create this life in service of freedom, aliveness, peace, and love. And we're partners in that. We're partners in that greater expansion for one another, even if that means at some point we might have to get out of each other's way.
Yeah.
And that's just what a lot of folks just aren't real hip to, right? They want to lock it down. I'm never going to be alone. Yeah. Never going to be alone again.
Yeah, just the way your energy changed when you said that, it was like, the casket is over here. Like, that is definitely not the playful. I have cats, so I imagine cats rolling around instead of dogs. But exactly, I'm like, oh yeah, they totally do that. Okay, so I would be a disservice to my listeners if I didn't ask you these questions. And you are so interesting and smart. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. Women ask all the time, Marni, why do men ghost? Why do men flake? Why do they just disappear? What's that about? What's going on?
Because they're human and they fear discomfort and pain.
That's deep. Say more.
Every human just doesn't want to feel discomfort or uncertainty or pain, period. So, if I'm going to text this person back and I got to be honest and say I'm not interested, that could be uncomfortable. There might be pain there or whatever. I'll just kick it down the road. I think it just always comes back down to that.
So it's like avoidance, like the most basic level.
Yeah. I don't want to deal with this. Yeah. It's uncomfortable. Even if it might even be like, I don't know if she likes me and I don't want to find out and get hurt and I'd rather just run before they hurt me. Like you never know, but there's just something there that they're avoiding.
So what would you say to the woman who calls me? Because this happens like basically almost every day. And they're like, we had this and there's a whole story and we were this and he said this and then he just disappeared. So, and they ask me, so did I miss something? Like, is there anything that you can do when you're dating that person to be more discerning? Like, because that's, I think the question they're left with is, what did I miss? Or what could I learn? Or depending.
Well, I think it's always an opportunity to just give the person, to check out a story, because everything you're talking about is all assumptions.
Yep.
It's all assumptions. And so there's no winning there. Don't make assumptions, right? So you could just say, if you want to text the person back and say, I'm creating all kinds of crazy stories here. Would you be up for just checking out these assumptions?
That's so cool.
That may sound completely out of left field, but for me, that's an integrity. It's just like, we can think about it, right? If I want to be in a relationship with somebody and we can solve problems and we can deal with them directly, then start now. Don't wait. Don't wait until after you've gone through whatever dance. Start right now.
That's great. I love it.
And that will polarize guys, right? The guys that don't want to have that kind of connection and don't want to have that kind of sobriety in their relationships, they're going to run. But the other guy may be like, man, that's pretty cool. So I think that's, I would just like, don't wait to act how you ultimately want your relationship to be. If you want that kind of clear communication, don't make assumptions, check them out. I've got a story that says that you are blah, blah, blah. Is that true? And he may never respond, but okay, next.
Exactly. Okay. Why? Okay. Question number 2. How come some men don't want to commit?
They don't like you. They don't feel there. They feel like they're going to be trapped. They got their own garbage. They got their own shit going on.
And do you think there's an expiration date? Like if someone is like, I really like you, but, or next year, or let's just see after that, or let me make sure he's
a no.
he's a no. How do you know he's a no sooner rather than later? What's
What do you mean? How's he acting?
that? Okay, but what's funny is you're saying it like, duh, Marni, and I'm like, duh, I know it. But for them, they don't know it. So why did you say that like duh, right? Because I'm telling you, my people are listening right now and they're like Scooby-Doo, like, roar? Like, really?
How I guess I'll just throw it out the list. How would you act if you really liked something and you weren't playing games and you weren't being desperate, you weren't being needy, but it's just like you look at the menu and you're in the restaurant, you're like, I want that. How do you act? You're like, I don't know. Maybe I should come back next week and try. I'll see if it wants me. Like, you do that stuff, or you make it known. Hey, you know what? I like this. I want this. That's what I want to eat. And just even feel like that. That's like, there's just an energy there. It's like, oh, I want to fuck. Right? Like, there's just like, here we go. And that will repel some guys, right? That are afraid to be trapped and afraid they're going to lose them. Like I said, they got their own stuff. We all do. Me too. Still dealing with it. It's just that I think when we do this thing, when we're playing for safety and we're playing for control, we completely miss each other. It's a total masquerade. And so if you're going to play the masquerade with this person, then you're really not communicating anything.
Yeah, that's deep. What does your wife complain about you? What do you do that's annoying when you're doing the like 45-year-old baby?
Oh God. She was trying to have a conversation with me. I was at the top of the stairways and I wasn't listening. So I pulled my pants down in front of her. That just happened about half an hour ago. She's like, let me know when you want to have the conversation. So like I said, I can act pretty immature.
I love that. Yes. But you know what's cool about it?
I am beat red right now. So that's
my job.
Happens.
That's my job.
That happens.
But here's the thing, like, but this goes back to like the dogs and the cats rolling around is like, you know, there's a thing where my husband also, we're talking and he's pretending like he's listening, but I know he's not. And anyway, I do what your wife did basically. You know, I just make it a joke. But the reason I bring it up is that because if you are dating and you are constantly looking to rule out, you can find shit all day long, right? About why he blah, 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 or why he isn't blah, blah, blah. And it is, you're missing out on like the bigger picture. What does your wife love about you the most? Why would she tell me you're the best husband ever?
I don't know. You'd have to ask her. I'm not going to try to attempt that. But I will say that I think what gives me a lot of peace is knowing that I can work stuff out. I know that I can bring anything to her and it's not going to blow up everything. I know that we can deal with stuff, that we're going to be able to sit down and listen and hear each other and say, okay, you screwed up or you messed up and we're going to figure this out. That there's a real sense of being allies there, not like, oh, she's my mom or my parent and they're going to come down on me now. There's not just this authority thing. So there's a huge part of me that just relaxes when I know that I've got a real partner there. That's huge for me. So whatever challenges we've got to deal with, whether it's professional, it's how we're raising our daughter, or whatever's happening in the house, sexual, whatever, that it's welcome. And when you talk about why people ghost each other, why they do all this stuff, is because they don't feel safe to be with the truth. And so that's how stuff just ends up getting shoved into the back of the refrigerator and ends up, smelling like bad Chinese food after having many years in a relationship, because nobody's dealing with anything anymore. And they're all trying to just keep this house of cards together. But it's so nice to know that, all right, this is maybe a tough conversation, but I can bring it and we're going to work through it and we'll get it done. And that has me just feel like, that has me feel really great about being with her. And I think vice versa, that we can do that with each other.
I love it. Okay, last thing. So if you were going to give our listeners one insight or one piece of advice about like how to really truly understand a man, because we are different. There's a different wiring. What would be like the one piece of insight that you would offer?
What would be the one piece about how to understand a man? I would just say, I don't know if there's any one piece of insight. I would just say get curious. Instead of coming from a place about how men should be, because that pisses me off when there's these rules. Women are this way, men are that way. I don't know. I read some of that stuff and I was like, that doesn't fit. It doesn't fit for my wife. That doesn't fit for me. Can we go into a situation and be like, well, how is this person? How are they? How do they respond to X, Y, Z? Maybe they're more on the feminine side of things when it comes to this aspect. Maybe they're more on the masculine side, instead of looking for these boxes. Again, I think the boxes and the certainty are there to try and help us feel safe and have comfort. And once I've got you figured out, then I don't have to think about this anymore. But that's not relationship. If we stay curious, then it's changing from moment to moment. and it will continue to evolve and be like, oh, who are you now? Instead of, oh, I figured you back out and, years ago. I don't have to think about this anymore. So there's effort here, and we're all trying to avoid effort because we just want to go to sleep and cruise through life. But I think the healthiest thing is to like, okay, who are you today? What's up with you today? What has you feel most alive today? What has you feel more free today? Where are you lit up today? Why would I go get in bed with my wife and then assume she wants to be touched the same way that she was the day before? It's like, okay, the one thing she's taught me is it's different day to day. So pay attention. And I think that's a lot better than getting into wanting to find the autopilot. I
love that. You ladies should listen to this damn episode before every single date. It will pump you up.
And I want that for women. Like it's so hard to be with amazing women that I see are cutting themselves off from great men. There are great men out there, and they block themselves from it. And I see why. It's scary. I get it. And it's just, I've experienced it so hard at like so many times of being with women and just feel sad. It's like, oh, I want this for you. And you don't realize how you're the one cutting it off. So I really want that for women out there. That's why I was excited to talk to you. There's just so much possibility, and it's going to take some vulnerability, and that's a lot to ask for, but that's the truth.
I love it. Wake up, get vulnerable, get into some damn action. Tripp Lanier, you're amazing. I'm having you back, so I hope you say yes. Go check out the New Man podcast, ladies. All the details are in the show notes. And don't forget, besides listening to this episode before your next date with some damn dignity. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.